Picture this, it's the middle of the 20th century. Spain is a nation cut off from the world, ruled by a dictator's iron fist. Its royal family is in exile, with no clear future. Elsewhere in Europe, monarchies are scrambling to figure out their place in a fast-changing world. But in 1962, a royal wedding would completely defy the political landscape. This isn't just the story of a Greek princess and a Spanish prince getting married. It's the story of a calculated political statement, a symbol of hope for a nation, and a strategic move that would ultimately pave the way for Spain's return to democracy. So, to really get why this wedding was such a big deal, you have to understand what was happening in Spain at the time. Since 1939, the country had been under the thumb of General Francisco Franco. After the brutal Spanish Civil War, Franco built an authoritarian regime that left Spain isolated, both politically and economically. The monarchy had been abolished, and the royal family, the House of Bourbon, was living in exile. The heir to that defunct throne was Infante Juan, Count of Barcelona. But Franco saw him as too liberal, a threat. So the dictator turned his attention to the Count's young son, Juan Carlos. In a move to secure his own regime's future, Franco brought Juan Carlos to Spain to be educated under his direct supervision. The young prince was being groomed, but for what, exactly? A puppet king who would continue the dictatorship? Or was there another path? For years, Juan Carlos had to walk a political tightrope, publicly supporting the dictator while the hopes of a nation rested on his shoulders. It was an incredibly tense time. Spain was a kingdom without a king, and its prince was a pawn in a dictator's game. Against this tense political backdrop, a personal story began to take shape. The main characters were Prince Juan Carlos of Spain and Princess Sophia of Greece, a great-great-granddaughter of Queen Victoria. They'd first met on a royal cruise in 1954, but their romance didn't truly spark until years later. During the summer of 1961, after a royal wedding in London, Juan Carlos spent time at the Greek royal family's summer home on Corfu. It was there, in that beautiful setting, that their relationship really took off. They spent their days sailing, but it wasn't all smooth sailing. The two had several major arguments. But for Sophia, that wasn't a red flag. She later said those fights convinced her that a marriage between them could actually work. If they could navigate those kinds of storms and still find their way back to each other, she believed they had a foundation strong enough to last a lifetime. It was a revealing sign of the pragmatic and strong-willed woman who would one day be queen. On September 13, 1961, the official engagement was announced in Lausanne, Switzerland. The news was met with an absolute explosion of joy, especially in Greece. But behind the public party, political realities were brewing. In Greece, the wedding came with a serious price tag. Sophia's mother, Queen Frederica, pressured the government for a huge dowry. A bill was sent to the Greek parliament to grant Sophia 9 million drachmas, about $300,000 at the time, or $2.5 million today, completely tax-free. This sparked a heated public debate, with student protests and the slogan, "Dowry for education, not for Sophia." It was a stark reminder that even royal fairy tales have real-world costs. For Spanish monarchists, though, the marriage of their prince-in-waiting was a moment of national pride, even if the state-controlled press reported on it with caution. When the wedding day, May 14, 1962, finally arrived, it was clear this was bigger than just a national event. It was a global statement. Athens played host to the largest gathering of European royalty since Queen Elizabeth II's coronation almost a decade before. The guest list was a who's who of the world's monarchies. Reigning monarchs like King Olav V of Norway and Queen Juliana of the Netherlands were there. Prince Rainier III and Princess Grace of Monaco added a dose of Hollywood glamour. Exiled kings, like Umberto II of Italy and Michael I of Romania, represented the fading world of old Europe. All told, over 1,000 guests attended, creating a powerful display of dynastic unity in a post-war world. The sheer scale of the event sent a message: through this marriage, Spain was re-emerging onto the world stage. The wedding day itself was a masterclass in diplomacy, designed to honor two cultures and two religions. The day kicked off with a Roman Catholic ceremony at the Cathedral of St. Dionysius the Areopagite. Princess Sophia arrived with her father, King Paul of Greece, in a stunning historic coach pulled by 6 white horses. Sophia was every bit the royal bride. She wore a gown of silver lame covered in priceless heirloom Bruges lace, which her mother had also worn. On her head sat the magnificent Prussian diamond tiara, a gift from her mother that would become an iconic piece in the Spanish royal collection. Prince Juan Carlos waited at the altar, dressed in the olive-green uniform of the Spanish army, a clear nod to his heritage and his future role. After the Catholic service, the couple went to the second ceremony, a Greek Orthodox service at the Metropolitan Cathedral of the Virgin Mary. Here, ancient traditions took center stage as attendants exchanged the rings and crowns on the couple's heads 3 times. These were the very crowns used at the wedding of Sophia's own parents, weaving yet another thread of history into the day. As the newlyweds left the cathedral, they passed under a tunnel of swords held by Juan Carlos's friends from Spain's military academies. Spanish royalists in the crowd erupted, shouting, "Long live the king!" A defiant and hopeful cheer for a monarchy that hadn't even been restored yet. Sophia then tossed her bouquet, and in a storybook twist, it was caught by a young Princess Amri of Denmark, who would go on to marry Sophia's brother just 2 years later. This wedding was a spectacular display of royal diplomacy and a powerful symbol of hope, but the couple's biggest tests were still to come. If you find the collision of politics and royalty fascinating, make sure you subscribe to our channel and ring that notification bell. You won't want to miss what happens next in the dramatic story of the Spanish monarchy. The true importance of this wedding would only become obvious over the next 2 decades. For another 13 years, Juan Carlos lived under the shadow of the Franco regime. When the dictator finally died in November 1975, Juan Carlos became King of Spain. Many assumed he would just continue Franco's authoritarian legacy. He did the exact opposite. King Juan Carlos I systematically started to dismantle the dictatorship, appointing a government to guide Spain's transition to democracy. His defining moment came on February 23, 1981. When armed officers stormed the Spanish parliament in an attempted military coup, the nation held its breath. In the middle of the night, King Juan Carlos appeared on television, wearing his full military uniform as Captain General of the Armed Forces, and decisively condemned the coup. He ordered the military to stand down and defend the democratically elected government. That one act saved Spain's fragile democracy and cemented his place in history. He had used the power given to him by a dictator to restore freedom to his people. The hope that his wedding symbolized back in 1962 had been fully realized. He had fulfilled his destiny not as Franco's puppet, but as the king who brought Spain back into the family of modern, democratic European nations. The wedding of Juan Carlos and Sophia was far more than just a lavish royal party. It was a strategic alliance that brought together exiled royalty and signaled a new beginning for an isolated country. Their union produced 3 children, including the current monarch, King Felipe VI, securing the line of succession. And while King Juan Carlos's later reign was hit by controversies that led to his abdication in 2014, the importance of his role in Spain's history is undeniable. He was given the powers of an absolute monarch and chose to give them to the Spanish people, guiding his country through one of the most successful and peaceful transitions to democracy in modern history. The story of their wedding was the story of a promise made in Athens in 1962, and a promise fulfilled in Madrid in the decades that followed, forever changing the destiny of Spain.